Hello, gorgeous Soul Tribe, and welcome back to another episode. It's so lovely to be back with Sherri and with Lisa. And today we're going to be talking about messages, mirrors, and true self. So, we were just chatting backstage quickly about we have just walked through the solar eclipse. So, it was the 21st. So, we had a new moon in Virgo, as well as a solar eclipse, and as well as over here, it was the spring equinox, and you guys are now in fall. So it just feels like this crazy portal that we've walked through. And previous to that, we had, I think it was the uh, new moon in Pisces, or it was 2 weeks before we had the lunar eclipse in Pisces as well, which may have been the full moon, I think. But either way, we've sort of gone through this phase, and I can see Jake here. Hey, Jake.
Hi,
Lovely
Jake.
to have some soul tribe here. So yeah, we've gone through this purging where we're deepening our intuition, and now we're going through this stage of really planting the seeds and bringing things into fruition and action. And you can just feel that there's a lot of tension in the air at the moment and a lot of I guess I would call it like potential energy, or like Sherri's experiencing with the thunder and lightning storms over in Florida today. It's like we can feel this electricness in the air, but not necessarily knowing where it's going to hit the ground. So I know myself, we've had some interesting things on this week with Soul Tribe activations, or actually that was last week that we ran, and the new moon just the other day. What I'm noticing is some of my beautiful Soul Tribe are starting to get more visuals come through. So a lot more third eye activation and a lot more working with light body and things of that sort of nature at the moment. So a few of them are here in the chat. So hello and welcome everyone.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
How have your weeks or your last week? When is it? 2 weeks. We haven't seen each other for. How have the last 2 weeks been for you girls? What are you noticing?
Go ahead, Lisa.
I was thinking about that when you were talking about just kind of all of the astrological things that we've been going through. And I feel like I can definitely feel, that shift. And when you look at it from, just like somatics and things like that, I feel like when we were looking at the stuff that they were showing with the Schumann resonance and, how we had those days that were like totally white, just hours and hours of that. And some of the weather patterns that have been going on and things like that, it's like this upshift in resonance, and I can feel it. Can't you feel it? It's like you just feel like you're almost, if you could take a snapshot of almost like shifting in timelines, that's what it would look like. It's like the Schumann resonance is our way to scale it and look at it and see it. But I felt it in my life. I feel like the instantaneous like shifting of things when you think about something, or you're planning something, and then all of a sudden it presents, and you're moving into that. It seems like those synchronicities and things like that are happening real time, really, really quickly. And I feel like the tonality of just the planet and the resonance and things like that, it's all different and noticeable. Do you guys find that too?
Yeah,
Definitely agree.
I agree. I agree with both of what you ladies are saying, and it's interesting. I think so. You said something about the electricity. We have crazy thunderstorms going through Florida right now. It's just literally nonstop, just all day long, day after day. Which I love a good thunderstorm. I love the sound of the rain and the thunder, and seeing the lightning shows are really fun. My kids love to watch them, but it's like static electricity in the air, and it's buzzing. And it's funny because I work with clients all over the world. So it's not like it's just in Florida, and I'm talking to people daily and they're feeling like this buzzing and static through their body, but they're not in Florida. So obviously it's not just a Florida thing with the storms, but I think that's something with the Schumann resonance, like you're saying, Lisa, this it's like off the charts, and we're seeing like these crazy spikes. And then on top of that, a lot of my clients are reporting to me that they're actually feeling like activations in their body, and they're like, I've heard people talk about these things for years, but I never felt it before. But now I think I is that what I'm feeling? And they're like, I feel buzzing through my body, or I feel like I'm floating, or sometimes, and some I'm saying they're feeling like they're dizzy, but I'm getting a lot of, I feel like I'm just floating. And so obviously there's a lot of different variables. Everyone's feeling their own thing, but the similar kind of the theme is kind of just feeling like you're activated in some way. And a lot of people aren't sleeping well. I usually sleep very well, but lately I just feel like I'm waking up in the middle of the night. And I wonder if you guys want to chime in the chat. You wake up and your body feels like you're just buzzing all over. And it's super annoying because you're so tired but you can't sleep because your body is just like electricity going through your body. And you're just like, I can't sleep. And you're just exhausted all the time. But I think our bodies are just like so much activations going on, which I think it's a really beautiful testament that we're seeing it all over the world with lots of different people, different ages. And I think that is a common thing. So I'm curious what everyone in the audience is also experiencing as well.
Yeah, I can see a few familiar names that were with me for the activation that I did last week, which was the Soul Tribe activation. And we worked with the light body. So we worked with, activating the aura, activating the nadis, which were all sort of like the little chakras that you see kind of sparkling within the light body and within the auric etheric field, as well as we worked with activating some of the higher chakras and the light body as well as the rainbow body. And I feel like it was sort of helping to amplify or to direct some of this electrical buzz, because I've been feeling it here in Australia as well. And I'll just sort of pause while I'm sitting on the couch or working and just feel this electricity. 1 second. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Electrical charge. No, hay fever season over here. So it's springtime, which is lovely. But no, you can just feel the electricity in the air. And it's to the point of where you can even hear it. And I'm thinking, is it to do with the actual electricity? Part of me wants to go out to the countryside and just, stand in the middle of a field and see if it's still got that electrical nature to it, because you can feel it. Yes. And I think this is where we're starting to activate, definitely seeing the physical evidence of it with clients, getting more visuals. Some of them are getting more sensitive to touch, some more sensitive to what foods they can eat as well. Oh, thank you, Mango-san. Yeah, so definitely feeling it down under.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's kind of all over the place. It just feels like there's something different. Maybe people aren't putting their finger on it, or the people that are in your family even that aren't as aware as, our viewers are. But they can feel change. There's something going on, and it just feels like everything's, very high level, high frequency. And in some circles, it can look like chaos, right? Some of the news cycles and the things that we're seeing, things can be getting very, very chaotic too. But it's just this energy uprising, like an increase in everything. And it just makes it feel like stuff is happening faster. And, I was wondering when we were talking about sleeping even, I wonder if it's going to get to a point where we don't need the same amount of sleep. Like right now we're going through that transitional place, and you hear that that's going to happen down the line as we're kind of evolving. But I wonder if it's going to come sooner than we recognize, because I definitely see it with food, right? Like we eat differently now for sure, less, and you don't need as much. And the things that, the kids were asking me for and wanted and things like that, they're not asking me for it anymore. And at first I thought, well, maybe it was because, they just knew I wasn't going to get them fast food, or I just wasn't going to get, but I was talking to Gigi about it, and she was like, I don't want it. I just don't. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's good, because now I don't have to fight with her anymore about it. But, the fact that she doesn't want to eat those kind of foods is a huge tell to me, because when she does want something, she wants like a big fresh salad, which is amazing.
That's great. I mean, I think as our bodies change, what we can process is changing. So our bodies are recognizing food that's not real much faster now. We're getting stomach aches when we do eat the foods that we think that, we used to like. And they were like, oh, let me just have some of it again. And then you're like, oh, I don't like this. And I think that is a big one. And sensitivity to sound seems to be really common right now. People can't deal with the noise. And interestingly, children, two things. I've been told by parents for, 7-8 years now that their children don't sleep anymore. And I've been getting the messages through those sessions that we are definitely not going to sleep as much as we used to. As our bodies change, our frequencies change, our density changes. Our body won't require as much sleep. And I remember thinking selfishly, this is so funny. This was, I don't know, Aramis was my youngest, so she was maybe 2. And I was like, no, wait, can we have this change when the kids get older? Because I want to sleep. Right. Like I was thinking about it from a selfish perspective because I'm a sleeper. And honestly, hands down, the biggest challenge for me as a parent is the no sleep part from the newborn stage all the way through. Like that has been the hardest part. So I was like, no, let's push that off until like later. But a lot of children, they don't sleep and they don't need as much sleep. So I think we are seeing it in the younger generations and we're catching up to it at some point. But children are also hearing the sounds that we don't hear. So when I'm working with children, a lot of times they're like, don't you hear the sounds? And their parents are like, what? And they'll say they hear like the world is loud and they hear the buzzing and then they hear like one of the kids recently said he hears sounds coming from the sun and he couldn't describe it to me, but he said it's like a buzzing sound, but it's like a lowish tone. And he was trying to explain it to me, but he didn't have words to describe it. And I was like, well, does it bother you? And he's like, no. And he's like, well, if I focus on it, then I only hear that and then it drowns everything else out and it can be really hard to concentrate. But it's generally like, you know how you get used to a background sound? It's like one of those, like a fan is in the room and you just forget, you don't really notice it anymore. So they're hearing all of these sounds that we don't hear, good and bad. I mean, children hear the voice to skull technology of negative affirmations. And they'll tell me when I'm at school, I hear these thoughts come in my head. I'm not good enough and I'm not smart. I'm not worthy. My parents hate me, kill myself, like all of these horrible things. And they tell me about it. I've written about it in a couple of my books. I didn't believe it at first. I mean, I believed them, but I couldn't believe it at first. And now it's just like, I've heard it so many times. So I think we as adults are tuning in more to those sounds as well.
Yeah. I think you can hear the sun when you go, like if you're, especially if you have like rays hitting you and stuff, there's like a shift. You can kind of hear it's faint, but I totally get that. And I understand what he's saying. And I'm sure you guys too, especially because of the work that, we do. But if you are tuning into a place, like a certain planet or a certain place, like, on the map of the solar system or whatever, there's a tone that is in the background of those places. And it's interesting that they, can hear it. But my guess is that it's going to be like that for everyone when they start to think about things and stuff, because that's really how it starts, right? Is you're thinking about it and stuff. And then you kind of hear that undertone, the subtonalities of these places. So it's interesting. I think everything's just kind of turning up.
Yeah. Oh, Lisa, I've popped down the bottom a little add to stage thing just to share that's related to what we were talking about with electricity. So this little pic is a Kirlian photography pic. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. So this one was Whole Foods Nutrition was where this one's from. So we can see that there's a slice of meat and we see a lot of the plasma electricity kind of discharging or not really like holding in the food. And then we see with the apple how, it's just a slice and you can still see the energy and electricity is still quite alive within it. So if we think about the food that we're eating, we're really naturally being more drawn towards electrical foods a lot at the moment, is what I'm hearing from a lot of people. So this is helping to build the light body. And this is just a photo I found the other day to kind of demonstrate, this transformation or activation that we're going through as humans. And then I just wanted to also pop this one up because a lot of the work that I've been feeling to do right now has been really, putting the earth at the center. And we've been using this in some of the activations and things we've been working with in some of the groups that I run. So yeah, it's not just us that are like sending healing to the earth. It's also the guides. It's also angelic beings as well. So I just wanted to pop that up as a little reminder of like what we're working with on like a whole level. But yeah, it's interesting to look into the electrical side with the Kirlian photography and the food, especially if you look at activated sprouts. They have some of the highest electrical charges, like a little tiny activated buckwheat groat might be like just, smaller than the size of a pea, but the electricity can be this big around it. So if we're taking that energy into our bodies, nourishing, this is all going towards, if we think about us being electrical, the heart being electromagnetic, the acupuncture system, you just think about what we can do with this light. And I find when I eat that way, not that I am right now because it's been cold, so eating lots of nourishing curries and things, but when I eat more on the raw food side of things, I only need about 5 hours sleep. Whereas I find 8 hours on a winter kind of diet, I'm still feeling a little bit sleepy, or waking up, through the night. Excuse me, through the night. So yeah, I notice a huge difference depending on the way I eat.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
I feel like people are a lot of people, including myself, have changed their diet to more fruit. I would say 50% of my diet in the last year and a half has been fruit. So I eat, but it's easy for me because I'm in Florida. We have access to fruit all year round, and I just go seasonally. So whatever fruits are in season at that time, I eat a lot of it. And I mean, I mix in other things. I don't just eat fruit, but greater than 50% of my diet is fruit. And I feel more energized than ever, and I feel like those beautiful light codes that the fruit that grows on the trees and in the plants and the bushes they receive from the sun. Then, like you said, we ingest that, and our body. I described this as like a barcode in one of my books, where I was like, if you eat a fresh fruit, your body, it's almost like your stomach scans the theoretical barcode of that apple. And it's like, yeah, I know what this is. And it digests.
Yeah.
It's there's a symbiosis between the two. You digest an Oreo cookie and it scans the barcode. It's like, do not recognize, and your body recognizes that's not real, right? That's why there are a lot of very smart, intelligent animals that will refuse to eat food that's not real. Like there's pictures of like people trying to give a Big Mac to a bear and they won't eat it, or they'll sniff it and walk away. Now you give it to raccoons, like they'll eat anything, or chickens, right? But not that those animals aren't intelligent, but I think their stomachs are more like adapted to our diet. But the point is that the barcode is very specific to these natural foods and the sun and the nourishment that these foods and fruits and vegetables get. It's so easy for our bodies to digest, and it's adaptable. It's not adaptable. It's cohesive to our crystalline activation, and it's really beautiful.
So when we look at all of this that we're talking about as well, it really does link back to the true self. So if we're looking at our original blueprint or our original design and what we were supposed to eat, and David Wolf talks about this, who's a raw foodist and, has a lot of really amazing awake information online. He was talking about similar that, when we cook or we add ingredients and cook them down, it kind of changes the chemical composition. And so it's like the body recognizes a whole apple. And that's even when we juice, and you take the fiber out of the apple, you're getting an imbalance in the sugars. So your body will more rapidly take that sugar in, you'll get spikes and things. So it is designed perfectly with the fiber, with the natural fructose and everything too. So it's, I can see Rainbow Sun saying, love David as well. So what was it that was coming to you girls with talking about the true self, mirrors, and messages?
Go ahead, Sherri, you can start.
What I was getting is I've noticed through sessions lately, like a theme that's coming up, and I wanted to bring this up because I talked about it in the very first book I ever wrote, Intuitive Transformation Evolution. I talk about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. I call the conscious mind our nemesis, which sounds harsh, but I'll explain why. And then the conscious mind, subconscious is our friend. And so the subconscious is like the higher self, and that aspect of us that's like that's more, it's connection to our soul more than our primal state of being. Whereas the conscious mind can be a nemesis because it's connected to this matrix, at least here in this reality. And so the biggest challenge that I'm seeing with people is that they're getting hooked in through programming and subliminal messaging through their ego. And it's self-sabotaging behavior. I'm seeing a lot of that right now, where people are really struggling to not self-sabotage. So in essence, we are our biggest nemesis. A lot of the times we are our biggest saboteurs. And it's really hard for people to get past that because we look at ourselves differently than others. Like we judge ourselves more harshly than anyone else does in our lifetime. And I can pretty much promise everyone that when we look at ourselves and we judge ourselves of what we've accomplished, what we look like, what we think we should be doing, all of those things, we tend to look at ourselves with harsh eyes instead of the eyes of like acceptance and love and gratitude. And I'm so grateful. Look at all these things that I've done. But our reality trains us to look at ourselves as, well, what's Lisa doing? Well, what's Soul doing? And compare and contrast. And then therefore I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough because I can't do what Soul does, but yet I don't go inward and look at, well, what can I do? What am I capable of? It's not a contest, but there are things that I can do that others can't, and vice versa. And we're supposed to have this ebb and flow. We're not all supposed to be able to do the exact same things or master the exact same things. We're all on different journeys. But what I'm noticing, the biggest struggle is that people are lacking the self-love element of this ascension. And they are really critical of themselves. And they think that they should be doing so much more. And what I'm trying to tell people is, as we go through this fourth dimensional portal and we are healing and activating, part of that is reflection, peeling back the layers of who we are, and minus the programming, minus the, the validation that we sought out from everyone else but ourselves, and truly identifying who we are at that root, at the core foundation as a soul, and being good and feeling good about that. And minus all, there's this timeline convergence that I've talked about repeatedly, like a broken record, that I see is happening, where this convergence of so many different lifetimes, so many different timelines that we are all connected to, and a lot of which has been trauma. And we have this ancestral trauma. So everything is just compounded one over the other after the other. And now it's coming to like a junction point, and there's an explosion. And I feel like we're at this, like, we're all in this pressure cooker. And there's so much going on and boiling to the surface individually and collectively. So when we put it all together, it really does feel like we're going to explode. And so what I'm trying to guide people to do, and I'm doing this myself, and it's a journey for myself that we're always evolving, never going to get there because there's always more we can do, is just put aside the things that we can't control and the expectations of others. And then really just sit and reflect on what you are proud of yourself for. What are your accomplishments? No negative self-talk. What are you proud of yourself for? Look at in the mirror. I'm so glad. I'm so grateful. I'm healthy. I'm so grateful. I'm a great mother. Who cares what your children say? They get mad at you and they're like, you're the worst mom ever. They want to snuggle with you. So how do you feel from your perception? Are you a good wife? Are you a good mother? Are you a good person? Are you healthy? Or, do you do your best in your job, or just being a human being, and how you treat others, and start to look at yourself through eyes of compassion, and let that nemesis take a break, that ego, and put it and tame it down a little bit, and look at yourself through kinder eyes. And I feel like when we do that, the hijacking of the mind of this 3D system has less opportunity to hook into you and manipulate you into thinking otherwise. And that's it's like we're this work in progress. We're just constantly evolving and changing, but it doesn't help if we sabotage ourselves, because then we just go in a loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Totally.
I think you explained it really well. I sort of see that as, if you look internally in the brain, that negative voice, or that one that's trying to keep you small, is the amygdala. And it's the one that really thrives on fear, and really thrives on trying to keep you protected from anything that's outside of the comfort zone or anything outside of the familiar. So any kind of change that we're trying to make, it sometimes we'll see where we we can easily collapse back into the old timeline. So what I've been reading lately is Anthony Williams' book, The Medical Medium. He's written a new book a couple of months ago on angels and demons. I forget the exact title of it, but it's really interesting because he's talking about similar, but he's also talking about it where we have maybe, a demonic influence or the angelic influence. And really, when we're calling out a negative behavior, or we're trying to make change, say like healthy eating or going to the gym, and then it's like, no, I'll just have like, not that I eat them, but like Doritos or, something of that sort of nature. And then we start to spiral into like a negative thing. He's saying a lot of the time that there can be not just like our own thoughts and patterns, but it's also sometimes there's like a little demonic influence that's working. And he said, if you just pretty much call it out and just say, I see it, and checkmate, he said they tend to sort of dissipate or realize they can't feed off you if you call them out or if you say checkmate. So that might be an interesting experiment for the audience to try. But at the same time, a lot of us aren't actually calling on the angelics for help. So we're kind of aware of them or familiar with them, but are we actually, whether it's stating it out loud, asking for, beings that love us unconditionally to help step in, to help anchor the change, to help solidify that person that we're shifting to becoming. And I love everything that you said, Sherri. It's like I've had the same sort of thoughts and things running this week with just programs for self and really looking at it. Okay, what are the old programs? What are the new ones that I would like to operate in? And so much of it is related to what you said. And it's really an inpouring of self-love. Because when we top that up and we sort of fill with that, we have so much more to give and we're so much more magnetic and radiant to other people. And it's also, if we're looking at it, filling this first and everything else, like we've got in the title, being a mirror as well, it's interesting to see who will come and mirror that energy back, or who will come and actually bring a little bit of a demonic presence too. So you'll see also where there's like little triggers or people coming in to try and activate us to go back to old patterns and things. And that's where I've also found to use that new little checkmate thing that Anthony Williams talks about being really, really interesting, because it's almost like psychically you're calling it out or you're disconnecting from that. But yeah, he also talks about that you can heal any kind of, I guess, upset or demonic influence even from the past. So say there's a negative one to do with a relationship or a circumstance, you can actually dissolve that energy into the past, which I think is interesting. There's science just this week has discovered that when we change things in the future, things are changing in the past. So it's like we're really seeing science catch up now with what a lot of people in the spiritual field have been talking about for many years.
I love when science catches up with spirituality and there's like a convergence of the two, because it's a lot of what the spiritual community has been saying, but now like, because they can prove it, a lot more people are on board, which I think is great. Whatever you need to have like the substance behind it, because some people really are just those left brain thinkers and they need the proof. And my son is one of those. So I'm living with one, and it's very challenging because he doesn't believe in anything I do. He says like, I just don't understand it. He's very math oriented. It has to make sense. He has to be able to read it somewhere. He's a very logical thinker. He's like a genius. But when it comes to the right brain or having faith or just believing, I don't know. I'll hand him a crystal and he's like, this doesn't do anything. And there's no, and I want to see this. Show me something on the internet that says that it works. A doctor, somebody tell me. And that's what we're working with, and it's just no better, no worse, just different. And so different personalities, but science and spirituality, the merging of those is like, it is such it will really propel us so much farther in our future than anything else. If we could just get, which I think we're getting there right now, which is really cool and exciting. Sorry, Lisa, I think I interrupted you.
No, not at all. It's actually the same thing. And we don't recognize it as that because we always have to compartmentalize everything, right? So we look at stuff as it's all different, but really what we're looking at is an aspect of the same exact thing. And I'm kind of like your son. I like to geek out on the science part of it. And when I hear it and I like look into it, because I needed to know the same thing, and it made sense to me going back to the crystals when I was like, okay, so if we can look at plants, and we can look at them from the perspective of that, we know that if you have certain roots of a plant or certain, leaves of a plant or whatever the aspect of that is, the flowering part of the plants, and they can do something for you and they can heal you. And we can measure the fact that it's alive, like Sol was showing us with fruit, and how, you can see the electromagnetic stuff coming off of it. It makes sense then that if crystals are part of earth and they're part of rocks, that they're going to have a resonance as well. And why wouldn't they do that, right? Because we use crystals in our watches to kind of keep time and keep it going. And the military uses, crystals and things to, for their military stuff, for computers. Crystals are in computers and all of those things. So, but I had to kind of work through that in my mind too, because I need kind of that science aspect of it. And it's funny because neuroscience, when you were talking about the amygdala, they call that the default mode network,
Yeah.
where it's like always chatty and it's always kind of looping and it's always making us kind of go into comparison and stuff. And that's ego, really, right? So, and if it's left unchecked, it'll drive you crazy. But you just have to remember that, like every choice is a frequency match in the quantum field that you're doing. So instead of like letting your ego, be something that kind of runs amok, maybe you can allow it to be the tuner, so that you're allowing it to help you find the things that you resonate with instead of pulling you to things that you don't, right? And then I think that it's funny too, because we were talking about science, and when things get crazy in my life, I always go back to like my breath and my body, and we talk about that heart brain coherence and stuff that we want to move into, and you feel calm and centered and stuff. But the part I love is that Katie in the chorus was talking about that when you meet resistance, they don't look at it as a problem. They look at it as proof that you're expanding, right? So at the point that you're thinking like, am I doing something wrong? Because you're meeting resistance in something in your life, you can say to yourself, no, this is me stretching into more of myself. And so when you look at it that way, you shift how you feel about it, because you understand that, you're meeting the resistance because of the change that you're making, which is a positive thing. So, the ego can be your friend too. We always hear that it's kind of bad, but I don't see it that way. It's there to kind of show us as the tuner. You're out of tune here. You gotta tune into something a little bit different. But sometimes I laugh at it. Like if I see that my ego is kind of giving me judgment about things, or I'm judging, something I did or something the girls did or whatever, I'll literally just start laughing. And I recognize that that's what it's doing. And I'm just like, okay, and just like, I got this, thanks. And I just kind of put it down and keep it moving.
I mean, I think if you become friends with your ego, that's like the sweet spot, right? It's like you've learned to tame it. It's all about taming it. And then it takes a lot of self-mastery to do that, because I used to be really in the shadow side, not really ego based, but the shadow side is your ego. So I guess essentially I was holding on to my pain many years ago. And I was just such a dark person, just so angry and bitter. And then I went through an enlightenment phase, and then everything was like light and love. And then I realized, okay, well, that's not practical either. But I needed to go through the contrast of that for a while. And my first son, Jordan, really helped me experience that contrast, that I had never felt love like that before, and that opening of my heart. So I needed those years of just light love and just pure bliss. And then life, changes, and then you learn to have balance. It's all about balance. But it's really hard for people to get from one to the other in order to even find that balance. It's crazy. And the more crystalline we become, we are like crystals ourselves. So we're all amplifying and projecting right now where we are in our spiritual growth. And that's why we're seeing such a spectrum of like extreme anger and extreme just rage, all the way to those that are like, oh, this is the best life ever and I have no problems, and nothing wrong with that. And then everything in between, and everybody is kind of experiencing their own thing. But when we project it out, we're amplifying where we are right now. So wherever I am in my journey right now, I'm amplifying that out, and everyone is seeing and feeling what it is that I'm amplifying. And it's really hard. And I'd love to get your perspective on it. I have 3 children and 3 animals, and there's me and my husband. And we're all my son moved out, but when we're all together, that's 5 people and 3 animals, all in their own frequency, all dealing with their own stuff, projecting in their own way. That's a lot of energy in the home. So it's like let's talk about how we navigate the challenge of not only what we're projecting and amplifying, but everyone else in the home. Like that's an interesting journey for everyone.
I want to get Sol to answer that, but I want to piggyback on that too, Sol, when you're answering.
Yeah.
I'd also like your opinion on, I've been noticing, especially in and around my family, but other people too, kind of out in the world. It seems like in auric fields right now, there's those little sparkly opalescence kind of looking things. And I was wondering if it was what Sherri was referring to, where it's like becoming more of a crystalline kind of being or whatever. So I'd like your opinion on that too.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that so much in people and in auric fields. So that's kind of newer for me to see it to that degree, because there's a lot.
Yeah, so part of it has always been with us, but it's more that we're developing the eyes to see. And the other part is a lot of the activity to do with the sun and to do with the frequency of Earth, Gaia raising as well, that we're seeing it a lot more. So when you're seeing those sparkles around, a lot of the time it's actually in your own aura. So it's a really, we're seeing that firsthand beautiful transformation. Sometimes you'll see it further away, but if it's sort of within about, within your sort of 6 feet radius, it's usually within your own aura. And I saw a cute little comment from Emma in the chat as well, just saying that instead of saying because mum said so, she's like, because Lisa, Sol, and Sherri said so. I thought that was cute. But yeah, what I've been noticing too is being a lot more soft and gentle with myself. And not that I wasn't before, but what I'm noticing is celebrating wins. So even out loud, and this is, I think, to sort of like balance out that negative side, or the amygdala or reticular activating system that we've been talking about to do with the brain. So if you're like, girl, you know what? You did a good job. And it's like celebrating your wins, you actually notice a physical shift when you say it. And then you're stepping up into attracting and bringing in more beautiful, amazing things. Because, our words do matter, especially when we say them out loud as well. So we're building a stronger neural network in the brain. When we're saying things like that, we're actually training ourselves to look for the positive, or even like magnetizing, drawing positive things to us. And I've just noticed it's a really interesting path to be on, with like giving yourself a pat on the back, because so many empaths will look for external validation. And even just being a human, we look for 3D validation, that things are changing from within. But if we can give that to ourselves, and then that will start to kind of work like the gratitude practice, but it's slightly different. It's like the field that I've worked with.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the family dynamics within the house with the different frequencies?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we have a similar thing. I've got 3 children, and they're pretty much grown now, but my partner's also got 4. So at different days, different times, there's between 7 extras coming and going in the house besides just us. And then you add work and you add animals into that as well. Yeah, there's a lot of different energies, but I think if we can balance who we are within ourselves, and I notice as well, definitely keeping up the energy clearing. So making sure that we're in a clear energetic space. So I find like doing the pranic healing practice for me, like energetically clearing things, really helps to have like a solid energetic framework to work with. Or if I'm noticing someone's going through something, or there's an attachment, because having people go out to all different places, you can bring up little piggyback Klingons and things. So sometimes if I'm noticing disharmony, I will do like a quick little pranic healing session, clearing these things. But I'm also just finding I want to be in meditation so much more. And I'm sort of creating from that 5D meditation level. And I'm finding that it's echoing into the 3D. And yeah, there's some just amazing things that come into being. And then there's amazing things that you can shift out of alignment with too, that are not resonating. So yeah, I'm just in a family level, also putting on music that we've talked about on here before. So playing clearing music, or playing like OMS, or some of the Vedic music, the 432 hertz. A lot of the ones that you find on YouTube, unfortunately, not really specifically tuned to those hertz that they say. So it can be good to go and buy independently from proper musicians that actually do like a real recording. Yeah, so that would be, I guess, some of my tips that I'm seeing. But yeah, there's a lot of juggling of personalities at times.
Definitely. I think for us too, I know you had said that pranic thing, you were telling me some of the really cool stuff that you were having in your personal life and stuff like that. I'm looking for somebody that does that around here, because I would love to be able to. You were even helping me try to find somebody that was in Vegas that could do it too, but we haven't been able to find anybody. But I think, it's hard sometimes, because depending on, if somebody has a bad day and they walk in, or like you were saying, sharing your home with somebody that doesn't share your belief system, can be difficult because you want to give somebody the space to, um, move through this whole situation the way that they need to. At the same time, you're having your own feelings about it. And I think we've come to the place, in my family where everybody just kind of gives a wide berth to those things, and we allow for the space, needed to have everybody figure out, because we've got one that vacillates, we've got another one that doesn't really, want to talk about it or think about it at all. And Johnny is very firmly kind of in 3D, just because that's everything that he has to do with. And then I'm over here trying to, like, figure out more and kind of move into a different deepness of it. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. I think it's probably also pretty common.
Yeah, we have that too. My partner's, being a triple Taurus and part of fortune in Taurus, and I think South Node in Taurus as well. So maybe revisiting the same life as last time in terms of the lesson. But I mean, that's all very 3D fixed to do with the material plane side of things. But yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't mean that like there's any less value that they add to the spiritual side of it. I've learned so much from him, like around grounding and around like physicality. And yeah, it's like we kind of balance each other out. It's really interesting. And I see that in Johnny as well, but he's still got that beautiful doorway open. Because each of the characters in your household, I've met a couple of them. They're all beautiful individuals.
Not everybody. I don't think you only haven't met my two oldest sons, but everybody else, them all. Yeah.
I think finding common ground between each other is really important too, because there are people mixed, like you just both mentioned. And I'm like Lisa, I'm like way up here and like, spiritual realm, and everything's going to be fine. And that's the kind of work that I do. Well, not that everything's going to be fine, but the type of work I do is very spiritual based. And then my husband's in like real estate and money and like 3D stuff, and completely two different things. And then, I have a daughter who's extreme right brain, and then the son that's extremely left brain. So they both need to like have some balance in between the two. And my oldest, he's actually pretty balanced and everything, but he's not here. So it's like, how do you find common ground for everybody to like a leveling playing field? And my biggest advice is just find something neutral to do with each other. So I've said this so many times, but it's still our favorite. We love to watch funny videos on YouTube as a family. On the our big TV, we'll put like silly cat videos and animal videos, and it makes everybody laugh. Or we'll play the last weekend we had, it was my daughter's birthday, or the weekend before, and we played fun games, like like silly games where we all had to like write things down, and then we were trying to like see if we can come up with the same things, but we were cracking up and laughing, and nothing to do with anything. But it was just pure fun. So just bringing some joy and laughter outside of politics, outside of work, outside of your children's school, outside of stress, outside of health concern, all of it. You just have some sort of a common ground. And I think that's really important, so that you remember, why you guys are here together.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know what? I think with the time I was just looking at, it's a really good time for us to shift into some of the animal stuff that you were talking to us about. It's fascinating. So tell us what you're hearing.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of animal sessions lately, and so many things are coming through, and these sessions are boggling my mind. And some of it's kind of lower frequency, but the point is I want to share it because I want to help people learn how to combat it. And I want to talk about a session I had today. I'm getting a lot of animals right now are really getting sensitive to the technology that has been amplified. So I don't want to say trigger words to get our channels taken down, but there are certain satellite towers that work with our cell phones that emit frequencies that you guys hopefully can guess what I'm talking about. And they're getting stronger. And I've seen 4 or 5 animals in sessions, cats and dogs, very recently, where their animals are telling me it feels like they're in a microwave. Now, we know that these frequencies are like being in a microwave. They're radioactive. That isn't new. But it's somehow they've been amplifying it. So the animals are starting to have the effects of it. And as a result of this is the second part that's really interesting. They're causing dimensional tears. And this is what's really important, because if you talk about everything we've talked about tonight of our energy being really amplified, and we've got, sometimes kids open vortexes without realizing it because their frequency is so strong. So you combine all these energies in the home, plus the amplification of cellular towers and other EMFs and other frequencies. And we're seeing more of these tears, dimensional tears, and they can be within your home, and they create openings. And then astral entities are coming through. And the entities that I'm seeing are not like anything crazy scary. What I've noticed lately is they're more shadow parasitic, and they are making the animals sick. And I actually had a session today where this cat all of a sudden started to get sick. And I saw that, I'm going to make this really quick, but this tear occurred. And this cat was in the specific room where this occurred, and a spider being came out, and it shot this energetic venom at the cat, and it seeped through its pores, and it started to make him sick. He then got sick, had to have surgery, came out of surgery, and had nothing to do with his hind end, but then he started limping and couldn't really walk for the last couple of weeks after, and the vets couldn't figure out what's going on. So today she's had me look, and I was seeing all of this. And what happened is these little parasitic tick-like beings were attaching to the bum end of this cat, and it was like pushing him down and sucking the life force in. And it sounds really terrible, but I'm going to tell you how to clear it. So there's a good part of this. And these parasites were basically pushing the back end of this cat down because of the weight of them energetically was just like was suppressing him, causing him a lot of pain, and it was messing with the other cat, and the other cat attacked this cat. But what I was seeing is that the cat was trying to help his brother by attacking the entities, but it looked to the owners like he was attacking the cat. So this is a whole thing. So now this is like a half a dozen sessions now in the last like month where I'm getting microwave energy. The animals are feeling bombarded in their head. They're having aches and pains, inflammation in their body, and these portals and vortexes are opening in people's homes, and all these other things are happening. So I really sat with this in meditation in preparation for this today to see what else needed to be added to what I was going to share with you, which I'll get to. But what I did in these sessions collectively is we did a couple of things. Number one, I was guided to paint the walls of these people's home. Now, this is intuitively, like in using your mind. So anybody can do this. You're not actually going to Home Depot and getting copper paint. But in your mind, you're going to visualize painting the inside and outside of your roof, the outer perimeter of the walls, and the foundation. So it's pure copper. And then you're going to visualize the materials that make up the walls, the roof, and the floor, like materializing as this prismic structure. Plasmic structure that reflects the EMF waves and the electromagnetic activity outward. So it when it hits the walls, the internal fibers push it back out. And then I was instructed to about 10 feet below the property line and a radius of about 20 feet and about 30 feet in the air, roughly visualize the home and everyone in it, the animals, the people, like this golden light started to fill like a glass, water filling up a glass. And it was golden light going from underneath, seeping through, and Mother Gaia is helping with this and going all the way up until it's 20, 30 feet above and around and below. And that seals up any tears in the home and clears everybody's auric field. Now, this is obviously what I'm saying you can do on top of a plethora and a million of other suggestions that you can come up with, and I'm sure you guys can add to it. But these things were what I was told to do. And then today I had to pick off these fleas of this cat. But ultimately, in the end, I could have just put this cat in this golden liquid, and the fleas would have fallen off anyways. So if you guys are feeling like your animals in your home they're having personality changes, or they're looking at corners of the room and they are actually afraid, or their pupils are dilated, or they're having odd behavior, or they seem like they're clinging to you, or they're vocalizing a lot. Cats vocalize, and dogs, but cats vocalize more when they're trying to clear. So when you hear your cat howling down the hallway and you're like, why won't my cat shut up? Because they are doing their own version of clearing the space. So they vocalize and they ripple out this frequency, and they're attempting to clear the space. If they're real clingy to you or walking through your legs like in a figure eight, they're trying to clear your energy field. they're trying to help you, but sometimes their bodies take on too much. And so there's a lot more I can say, but I don't want to monopolize the time too much. But there are ways to combat this. So I want to end this, and we can talk more about it. There are ways to fight this. You don't have to go out and buy those special meters and put them outside of your house and spend all this money you don't have, because the truth of the matter is a lot of people are struggling right now financially and can't afford to buy all of these things. So I think this is the Lemurian in me. What's free? That's how I always feel. I'm like, what can I get? What can I do that doesn't cost me anything? And a lot of it is in our intention and things like that I just suggested. And obviously, if you have crystals or you put rock salt around the perimeter of your home. I was told today to have the lady put a big thing of salt in the room where that portal was, and then cover it with some sort of colander or something, so the cats, because you don't want the cat to eat the salt, because they could get up high too, and put something on it and then change it 5 days later. There were a couple other things that was suggested today, but I think that if you're just unsure, do the golden light. And then the last thing that I'll say, we called in the animal kingdom, which you all know I love to do. And what they told me is to have visualize animals like mustangs, but you can have any animals circulating. That's not a word. Circling your house, like in a circle, just like running in circles. And you can hear, I could hear the hoofs and the sounds and the dirt coming up, and the birds going in circles and going around your home in a circle, just hundreds of them, just clearing, and it creates a vortex, and it goes up into the universe, and it transmutes and clears. But these animals help create this vortex around your home, and you can call upon them once a week, every day, to do a clearing. So I think all of those things were the main things. You can also call on your angels and other things like that. But the animals have been telling me a lot lately that they're feeling an amplification of energy coming from towers, satellites, EMFs, televisions, things like that.
Wow. I think animals are some of our greatest teachers right now. Science shows that migrating birds can literally read the Earth's magnetic field. And, you talk about think about when animals can sense earthquakes and storms before we even know that they're, going to come and stuff. In the unified field theory, it's supposed to be that they're tuned into the actual fabric of the field, and so that's something that we've forgotten how to be able to do, that we can't tune into it that way. So, and spiritually, it's exactly what our ancestors told us, right? And they said that animals are messengers. So, bringing messages and stuff to us, the way that Sherri's talking about. So, when your cat stares off into space or your dog is looking at nothing, they're probably translating something in the field, that we're not able to pick up on because we've lost the ability to be able to tune in, in that way. So I just think that, they kind of remind us what we could do and what we could have when we learn that we can reconnect in that way. We're so lucky to have them in our lives and in our homes, kind of be able to show us, that these things are in our field that we can't see.
Yeah. I've noticed that even with Lyra and with other cats that I've had as well. Sometimes they will stare like something's there, and clairvoyantly I'll see a portal opening sometimes. Other times I've even had the infrared camera set up, and one of my old cats, Hermione, she was watching something come through from the outside of the building in the house in the lounge room, and she was like following it perfectly with this orb that's flying around on the infrared camera, and then watched it fly back out. So they're so attuned. But we actually do have the equipment. We've got the magnetite crystals that are in the pineal, just like birds do. But it's, our navigation system and our distraction with 3D reality is so off compared to what it would have been organically, back in, I guess, when we were just existing in gardens and things rather than in, and this is an interesting thing when you look into architecture. So Rudolf Steiner, a lot of his buildings are more designed with the Fibonacci sequence or Fibonacci spiral and the golden mean ratio. So the Gothitheum would be one of them. Another building that's designed with very interesting architecture would be Antonio Gaudi's La La Sagrada Familia in Spain.
Yes.
So a lot of the old architecture and a lot of the old Chartarian buildings were actually designed to harvest and hold pranic energy or chi, life force energy. So we've kind of boxed ourselves in these little houses that have become electromagnetic cages.
Yeah.
Even in that book that I was referring to before, the Anthony Williams one, he talks about this is where you have like two walls and a roof meet. He said this is quite often where people will see dark shadow beings, or, especially children will see them on ceilings going to bed at night. I know this is all stuff I witnessed as a child, or sometimes sitting on top of doorways. So they seem to be able to navigate into our matrix through these particular angles. So not saying to go and turn your house into like a yurt or anything like that.
Yeah.
I feel weirdly drawn for years now to live in a yurt. I always joke about it. But maybe, it could be a different experience. But I think Sherri shared so many valuable tools then. And I practice the salt water in our house too, and I see it as a psychic vacuum cleaner, just cleansing the energy of the space. And it's such a great practice. But I love everything you said about using the animals as well, or not using them, but inviting them to come and help with the clearing. Because I actually had that show up in a session the other day in a little reverse way. I saw two eagles, massive eagles, circling above this property in one of my sessions. And for the client, I'm seeing this, but then I'm seeing that the birds are actually connected to a vortex point. And it's kind of like that's drawing our attention. They're showing us that there was like a vortex point or like an energy field that we could work with. So I think animals really do hold keys and clues. And as much as we can, getting back into that kind of mindset or brain, it's where it's important to either go camping, go for a walk in the forest, switch off from the 3D box and from the electromagnetic warfare that's being sent.
Yeah, absolutely.
One way you can combat the portals in your doorways is to put crystals on top too. I always have crystals above each doorway, because any doorway can be used as a portal, and you can deactivate it. Well, in my mind, I'm asserting my intention and power, saying you cannot use this as a portal, and you'll put crystals on top. And my good friend Laura Ventine tells people to if you have a mirror, which I'm not a big fan of mirrors, but you put in the corner where the point, you can use a Sharpie and color in and make so it cuts off the tip of the what am I talking about? Where it connects, and it apparently deactivates the portal. I didn't know that, but a lot of people have done it and say it helps. So there's the other ways you can combat a lot of this stuff.
Speaking of the doorways, I actually will write on a Post-it. I've got one tucked into the little wooden frame, the faceboard that sits over the plaster. And it just says, I'm trying to think of exactly what I've written, but it's like, nothing of malicious or malefic intent shall enter this sacred space, something like that. And just putting things over like the front door, the back door, all of the old witchy things, a bundle of rosemary, tied to your front door, or a plant. There's reasons that the wise women, which is the translation of the word witch, there's reasons that they did all these things.
Yeah. Someone was asking which crystals. I use black tourmaline, shungite, selenite. Those are my favorites. Some obsidian sometimes, but I'm not as big of a fan of obsidian. But you can kind of go with it. And I like rose quartz in all the rooms too, because each of my children have like a ginormous chunk next to their bed to help with calming energy. So you just have fun with it.
Yeah, we did that too. The Post-it note over the door. The soul has helped me with all of those things too, and the salt. We have the black salt, at all the windows, and Emma and I walked around the house and kind of put it around the perimeter of the house a couple of times, and crystals as well. We do that too. But it's fine. We have crystals. Well, I think we have several crystals in every room. But I think that all of those things, that whatever makes you feel like you're doing it, the intention is the most important aspect of it, I think. And just having the visualization of the different things that you're doing can bring in, a sense of reclaiming your space for your family and what it is. And I love the visual that you were giving about, the cylindrical light that you were kind of putting around the house and the perimeter when you were talking about painting the walls in copper and using the plasmic floor and all of those things. I was doing it while you were saying it.
Me
And
too.
it's funny because, yeah, you could feel it, right? It was like all of a sudden this more uplifted kind of space. So because you always want to protect, your animals, they're your family. And if they're doing all of these things to work so hard for us, you want to be able to do all the things that you can do to help them in their mission,
Yeah.
to be with you and your family. So it's beautiful. Thank you, Sherri, for sharing all of that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've noticed that we're at the top of the hour. So I just want to say a huge thank you to you beautiful girls for today. And also to our amazing soul tribes, which is so nice to see the 3 soul tribes come together as one, bigger, beautiful family. So yeah. And thank you for those amazing tips as well. They're incredible. I love that. I was doing it at the same time, like Lisa said,
Yeah.
I'm like visually painting, and yeah, you could feel the difference. So it's amazing technique.
We thank you, and we do have such a beautiful group, and everyone's so nice and has a lot to contribute. And I want to second your thank you of spending all of these. This is episode 7 of us getting together and bringing these tribes together, and everybody showing up. That we could be here talking to ourselves, but you guys consistently come here, and you're interested in what we have to say. And you get some value out of it, and everybody is just spreading the love around. And I think that's so beautiful. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you all here with us, and it makes it so much more interesting. And let us know what you guys think about keeping the comments up. Do you like that? Do you like that you can kind of see them and talk to each other? Because we were talking about last time that if you're on a different channel or something, you can't really communicate with each other. So we were hoping that this would be a way where you could kind of communicate with each other more. So, if maybe in the comments or something afterwards, let us know if that's something that you like. We're just trying to figure out how to blend it all together. So anyway, thank you everyone for being with us. And it's always interesting. It's always an interesting conversation. And I always learn so much from the two of you. So I really appreciate having you both in my life.
Aww.
Same.
Yeah, same.
Well,
all right, you guys.
I go set up for sessions, so I'm going to say goodbye. Love you guys.
Bye, everybody. See you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
Sure.